Hey coders, how's it going? Mohammed here back again. And throughout this lesson, we'll be learning more about operators, more specifically assignment operators. Now in Python, there are many different kinds of assignment operators, and we have actually already learned about one of them. And that's the one that contains a single equal sign. And this is typically used when we create variables and want to assign those variables to values. Now, over the next few videos, we are going to learn about the assignment operators that allow us to modify and update the value of a variable in a concise and efficient way. They can combine an arithmetic operator with the assignment operator in a single expression. Now, if we recall arithmetic operators, these include addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and exponentiation. Now, over the next few videos, we're going to dive into how we can combine each arithmetic operator with the assignment operator to concisely update the value of a variable. So I'll see you all in the next few videos. The plus equals operator provides a convenient way to update the value of a variable by adding a specified value to its current value. So in simple terms, it's a shorthand way of performing addition and assignment in a single step. So let's see what this looks like. First, I'll create a variable called age, and I'll set it equal to the number 3. Next, I'm going to use the plus equals operator to add the number 7 to the variable age. So let's go ahead and write out age, and we'll do plus equals 7. So this is essentially the same thing as doing this. Age is equal to age plus 7. So let's go ahead and leave a note here, and we'll say this is the same as doing this. So let's go ahead and print out the age variable, and then let's run this. And as we can see, we get 10. So all that we've done is create a variable called age and assign it the number 3. Then we do age plus equals 7. And all this does is we take age, we take the number 7, we add them together, and then we save the result back into the age variable. So when we do 3 plus 7, we get 10, and then age is now assigned to 10. And we can see when we print out age, we see 10 in the terminal. So the plus equals operator can also be used with floating point numbers. So for example, let's say I create a variable called value, and I assign it the floating point number 10.0. Next, we'll do value plus equals, and we'll do 1.9. And this is the same as doing the following. Value is equal to value plus 1.9. Let's go ahead and print our value, and let's run our code. And as you can see, we get 11.9. In addition, you can also use the plus equals operator with strings. So for example, let's create a variable called greeting, and we'll assign it the string hello. Next, we'll use the plus equals operator and add the string world. And this is the same as greeting is equal to greeting plus world. So let's go ahead and print greeting, and then let's run our code. And as you can see, we get hello world. So in this case, this does string concatenation. So I'm sure by now you can see how the plus equals operator can be very convenient. It's extremely useful when you want to quickly update the value of a variable. So that essentially concludes the plus equals operator. The minus equals operator provides a convenient way to update the value of a variable by subtracting a specified value from its current value. So in simple terms, it's a shorthand way of performing subtraction and assignment in a single step. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So I'll create a variable called age, and I'll assign it the number 10. Next, I'll do age minus equals 3. And this is the same thing as doing the following. So let's leave a note. This is the same thing as doing age is equal to age minus 3. So let's go ahead and print out age, and then let's run this. And as you can see, we see the number 7. So all that we've done is we created a variable age and assigned it the number 10. And then we do age minus equals 3. And all this does is it takes age, subtracts 3 from it, and then saves the result back into the variable age. And as we can see, when we printed age, we see 7 in the output. So the minus equals operator can also be used with floating point numbers. So I'll create a variable called value, and I'll assign it equal to the number 7.0. Next, I'll go ahead and use the minus equals operator to subtract the floating point number 4.0. And this is the same as doing the following. Value is equal to value minus 4.0. So let's go ahead and print out value, and then we'll go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we get 3.0. So I'm sure you can see how the minus equals operator is very convenient, especially in situations where you want to quickly update the value of a variable. So that essentially wraps up the minus equals operator. The multiply equals operator provides a convenient way to update the value of a variable by multiplying it with a specified value. It's a shorthand way of performing multiplication and assignment in a single step. So let's see this in action. I'm going to create a variable called cash on hand, and I'm going to assign it the number 10. Next, using the multiply equals operator, I'm going to update the variable cash on hand by multiplying it with 7. So let's go ahead and write out the variable. I'm going to use the multiply equals operator and multiply it by 7. Now this is essentially the same thing as, let's go ahead and write a note doing the following. So cash on hand is equal to cash on hand times 7. Next, let's go ahead and print out the variable cash on hand, and let's go ahead and run our code. And as we can see, we get 70. So all that we've done is create a variable called cash on hand and assigned it the number 10. Then we take cash on hand and we do multiply equals 7. And all this does is it takes cash on hand and it multiplies it by 7, and then it stores the result of that expression back into the variable cash on hand. And as we can see, when we print cash on hand, we see 70 in the output. So the multiply equals operator can also be used with floating point numbers. So let's see an example of that. So I'll create a variable called values, and I'll set it equal to 10.0. Next, I'll go ahead and use the multiply equals operator, and I'll multiply 2.0. And let's leave a comma here, and we'll say this is the same thing as doing values is equal to values times 2.0. And let's go ahead and print out values, and let's run our code. And as we can see, we get 20.0. The multiply equals operator can also be used with strings. So let's see an example of this. So say I have a variable called greeting, and I'll assign it to the string hi. Next, I'll go ahead and multiply this variable by 3. So let's go ahead and use the multiply equals operator and multiply this by 3. And this is the same thing as doing greeting is equal to greeting times 3. Now let's go ahead and print out the variable greeting and let's run our code. And as we can see, we see hi 3 times. And so I'm sure by now you can see how convenient the multiply equals operator is, especially in situations where you want to quickly update the value of a variable by using multiplication. And that essentially wraps up the multiply equals operator. The divide equals operator provides a convenient way to update the value of a variable by dividing it by a specified value. In simple terms, it's a shorthand way of performing division and assignment in a single step. So let's go ahead and see an example of this. So I'll create a variable called cash on hand, and I'll set this equal to the number 10. Next, using the divide equals operator, I'm going to update this variable by dividing it by 2. So let's go ahead and write out cash on hand, and we'll do divide equals 2. And let's go ahead and write a comment, and we'll say this is the same as doing cash on hand is equal to cash on hand divided by 2. Now let's go ahead and print out the variable cash on hand, and let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we get 5.0. So all that we've done is create a variable called cash on hand and assign it the value 10. Next, we do cash on hand divide equals 2. And all this is doing is we're taking cash on hand and we're dividing it by 2. And then we're taking that result and we're saving that back into the variable cash on hand. And as you can see, when we print out cash on hand, we see 5.0. So the divide equals operator can also be used with floating point numbers. So let's go ahead and create a variable called values, and we'll assign it the value 10.0. Next, we'll go ahead and update the values variable by dividing it by 5.0. So let's go ahead and do values divide equals 5.0. So let's go ahead and leave a comment. And we'll say this is the same as doing values is equal to values divided by 5.0. So let's go ahead and print out the variable values and let's run our code. And as you can see, we get 2.0. So the divide equals operator is useful in situations where you want to quickly update the value of a variable by using division. And that essentially wraps up the divide equals operator. The exponent equals operator provides a convenient way to update the value of a variable by raising it to the power of a specified value. In other words, it's a shorthand way of performing exponentiation and assignment in a single step. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So I'm going to create a variable called values and set it equal to 2. Next, I'm going to use the exponent equals operator and raise the variable values to the third power. So let's go ahead and see that. So here we have the exponent equals operator, and I'm going to raise this to the third power. And let's go ahead and leave a comment, and we'll say this is the same as doing values is equal to values raised to the third power. And another way to think of this is we're simply just doing 2 times 2 times 2. So that's all exponentiation is. So let's go ahead and print out the variable values, and let's run our code. And as you can see, we get 8. So the exponent equals operator is very useful when you want to quickly perform exponentiation and update a value. And that essentially wraps up the exponent equals operator.